पार्थाय प्रतिबोधिता भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भगवद्वेषिणी। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतवक्त्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्ससुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतरा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीरोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला। अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोदीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः। पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलम् गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम्। लोके षड्जनषट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्।
So last minute Raviji asked me last week, can you do it? Since Balaji turned it down, I said okay. So I will. Some of these verses are technical, so I don't know how to chant. So I've asked his help to chant.
No, I'm also going to play it from.
So we'll play it and then recite it. Since Raviji gives so much of importance, because other satsangs we don't chant, we just say the. What we'll do is keep the usual mode of facilitating, because some of these are very descriptive. I've armed myself with some resources. I've got enough books to use to talk. So shall we start?
So we were writing
32, right? We'll start.
Yeah.
31 until 31.
Yes,
31 we have done. So
we'll
should we
start
start
with
at 32?
So,
Radhika ji,
Yeah, I have learned from my father.
You
so
want
she
to-
can chant,
Sure,
and
sir,
we
that's
can
what
follow.
he said. You know, but I didn't
That will be better.
prepare you in advance. Right? Please go ahead.
Shri Bhagavan
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravriddho
Kalosmi lokakshayakrit pravriddho.
Lokan samahartumiha pravrittah
Lokan samaharitumiha pravrittah.
Rite pitvam na bhavishyanti sarve
Rite pitvam na bhavishyanti sarve.
Yeva stitah pratyanikeshu yodhaah
Yeva stitha pratyanikeshu yodhaah.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravriddho
Kalosmi lokakshayakrit pravriddho.
Lokan samahartumiha pravrittah
Lokan samahartamiha pravrittah.
Rite pitvam na bhavishyanti sarve
Rite pitvam na bhavishyanti sarve.
Yeva stitah pratyanikeshu yodhaah
Yeva stitha pratyanikeshu yodhaah. The blessed Lord said, I am the mighty world-destroying time, engaged here in annihilating all beings. Even without you, not one of all the warriors arrayed in these rival armies shall survive.
So just as a background where we saw in the beginning of the chapter, we saw in 7, 8, 9, 8, not so much, 9 and 10, the Lord is describing his beginnings. Now those are gross manifestations of what is perceptible. And those are all heard by Arjuna. So now he makes a request at the beginning that I want to see the real you. The real you, as we know, is Brahman, is imperceptible, beyond the ken of our senses. But Arjuna is yet curious. And he starts off by saying that all my confusion is gone. So he feels that he is ready to perceive the Lord. So the Lord then says, see me, and which, as we see, he is not able to see. The Lord then realizes and gives him the Divya Chakshu. You all remember what is the significance of Divya Chakshu? What was the actual thing that happens when he says Divya Chakshu? So, the dissolution, the removal of the ahankara mamakara was what was meant by divine. Because that is what it is which prevents us from seeing divinity all around us because of the possessiveness and the ego that comes in. So Lord has temporarily removed that from Arjuna. And he starts seeing the Lord and the Lord starts describing. So most of these verses, I would say 80 to 90% of the verses in this chapter are all descriptive. So it is for us to imagine. Somebody was saying we need to wear those 3D type glasses to see and imagine. I mean, in some of the serials, they were able to show all those various things. But it's up to us to imagine and see. And as you also know, some of these verses make very good stutis because it's praise. But in the beginning, when Arjuna sees, do you remember what was the emotions that go through him? Beginning, what does he feel? Ashcharya. So awe-inspiring, wonder. So nature in its beauty, in reality, is all wonderful. Don't pause to admire. So when he first sees, he sees everything and he is awestruck. And then he starts seeing other sides, which are not perhaps not so palatable. So what is the expressed emotion? Bhayam. So the fear that goes through. And Raviji spent a lot of time describing the various causes for the fear. Mainly it was the open mouth with flames and teeth like tusks and fangs and people getting crushed, everybody rushing towards it, like moths rushing more like the rivers rushing towards the sea. That's how it was described. Now, why do you think Arjuna was so scared? Okay. You know what the sight is, but what is in it that scares people? He said. Let's go back. What did he actually see?
people getting crushed in their teeth.
Okay, whatever, all gory sort of things.
All gory
So
stuff,
ultimately, what does it
including
mean?
his own, I mean, all the
His
his
near and
own
dear.
near and dear one. Everybody's going through.
So what happens to them? Ultimately, it means the annihilation of all these people, which is what we made out. So it's the death. So death in any form is always fearsome to most people except jnanis. And that's the point our scriptures keep emphasizing that, like Swami Paramathananda says, we read the obituaries, we feel very philosophical that somebody who is born has to die. We feel that. But when it comes to us, then the people we know, that mamakara kicks in. And then we start feeling it's unfair, why did that happen? So death is only one form of things which is finite, right? That brings an end. But in this world, everything else is finite except Brahman. And that agony that we see, perhaps in death's case, is very intense. But we also feel sorrowful when we lose anything that is finite. And that's why our scriptures keep repeating and stressing again and again that as long as we predicate our happiness, we make the base of our happiness anything that is worldly and finite, we will never be happy because there will always be. We saw that dab, right? The mixture of dukkha and atripti and bandhana. So we need to go towards that. So in the form here is that life will consist of the good and bad. So samatvam is what tells us there is nothing like good, nothing like bad. And we need to go about that. So this is one of those, the typical stories I had long ago. This is supposed to be a Chinese story, it can be anything. So there is an old man, and some of you, if you have heard it, please you can repeat it for me. There's an old man who lives in a village, and he has a horse. That horse one day just vanishes. As you know the story, please tell.
No, you go ahead. I mean, it's your class.
No, it is sharing.
So, I mean, so the horse vanishes. So everybody is very, feels sort of sorry for him because it was only horse. And he says, okay, even this will be for something good, he will say.
So what?
So what? So
bad,
what? So what? It will be something good and it doesn't matter for him. Later, a few days later, that horse brings some more horses into his house. So he becomes, so everybody is like, you are so lucky now that your horse has brought in so much. He says, so what? It's okay. Then one day what happens is his son goes for a horse ride, one of the horses. And that is one of the horses that was brought in. So he goes there and while riding the horse, he falls down and he breaks his arm and leg and comes down. So the people are again sorry for him and he says, look, this is because the horses that were there were all they are all wild horses. And that is the reason why it has got, your son has got hurt now. See, he is now even more. He says, so what? So next few days later, what happens is the king sends his soldiers to fetch people for his army. And then he finds out, they knocks on each door and then they find able-bodied persons to the army. And then they find that he's actually not able-bodied. And therefore he says, so what?
And so the story goes on. So the question is, in life we'll be faced with many things. Can we rise above them with samatvam and say, okay, this too shall pass away, it's a passing phase. So you enjoy the good, but don't get obsessed with it. You take the bad, like the what and so what that Swami Dayananda said. So you enjoy it, but let it go. So don't get obsessed. So that's what samatvam is all about. So Arjuna was not able to take it because he saw the good things, the glory of the Lord when he was exaltation. But suddenly he sees the other side of the Lord, which is the destroyer, which is inevitable. In life it has to happen. But he was not able to take it. And that's why later on you will see that he is asking the Lord that I don't want to see this image, I want to see the more compassionate. And there's also a doubt in his mind. You heard of Lord being, very compassionate, always helping people. And here I am seeing the Lord who's actually killing people. So who are you really? And that's why he stopped. He's asking the Lord, who are you really? And what is your purpose? Why have you come? What have you come on earth for? Where he is now, Lord Krishna is answering. So let's 32. So Sri Bhagavan Vacha, the Lord said, Asmi. I'll read from Swami Paramathananda since it's the simplified version. Asmi is I am, and Pravardha Kala, the mighty time. So now he's saying I am the mighty time. you recollect in the Vibhutis, he had also talked about that I am time. But here he is going to give you one more definition of time, which is Loka Shayat Krita, the destroyer of the world. So I destroy the world in the form of time because everything is nothing is timeless other than Brahman. And I am proceeding. Pravuttaha, I am proceeding. Samahartum, to destroy Lokan Iha. All the people who are here, I am proceeding to destroy in the role as Sarve Yodaha, all the warriors, A Avastitha, who are arrayed here, who are all assembled here, Pratyini Keshu, in both the armies, Na Bhavishyanti, cease to exist. In future, they are not going to exist. And Apirite Tvam. So even without you, they will all cease to exist. So whether you are going to do this or not, they will cease. So it's up to you. And specifically, he sees Drona and Bhishma and all those are here. Then also Karna. So that's the next one is a very significant verse. Very good.
There are two things which come. Can I just
Sure, please. This is Balaji was wrong when he said it's my session. It's not my session. It's our session. It's interaction. I'm just a facilitator.
You put two questions. I mean, the first question was about the chakshu, right? I mean
Divine,
the divinity. One thing which strikes me is that Arjuna saw this entire Gaudi stuff of the Vishwarupa. Basically, I mean, it is probably his own internal violence which is portrayed out that way. The reason why I'm saying this is when Bhishma was also in his last stages, he also saw the Vishwarupa. And there were also exactly the two kind of things that were here, but slightly different. So Bhishma, when he was in the bed of arrows and he saw this, the first thing when he saw Krishna, he felt that, he was remembering the Mahabharata war. When Krishna was actually standing and he just stood like this, and looked at everybody, and everybody's life was out. He knew that for that point of time. And then he said he still started putting arrows, Krishna, because he was saying, I'm a Kshatriya. You see, the arrows are nothing but flower offerings for you. Just like a Brahmin or anybody would put the flowers, that is my offering to you. And I want to see your body. That's why he hits Krishna and his whole kavacham falls off. And Krishna is very beautiful in that when he takes the Chakrapanis or this thing. And he was extremely kind because he had promised that he will not touch any astram. And for Bhishma, he even broke that. So he was extremely emotional on that front. Immediately after that visual, his visual turns to Gopikas. He says to Krishna that if I die and there is a next janmam for me, I want to be like a Gopika. And in that bhavam actually, so he sees the entire stuff. So the violence that is there in the Kshatriyas are always, is shown, over here. The beauty of this whole thing is, I look at it from the message and the messenger. The message here was for Arjuna, and it showed Arjuna's vikaram, which is coming out and all this violence. And he's scared, he's inside scared. And that he will lose. And that's why all these people are rushing in and he's seeing that, and all those things happening. And Bhishma's was slightly different. So probably each one of us, it will be different. The Vishwarupa is going to be different. And it's going to be based on the vibrations that we are away from samatvam. For a jnani, what you mentioned, he's always in samatvam. That's why the vibrations are not there. So the positive and the negative, what we have internally, our own vasanas are going to be coming out in this way. That's one of the things which
is very true.
Because this message.
And one more thing is, he visualizes himself. I now read Gita Bhagavad future.
This is going to be
so it is going to happen to me as well. So in that sense, also he gets a lot of fears.
So that is one point. And the second point, you spoke about fear of death. That's a very beautiful thing. That even Ramayana, when we were listening over there, Rama says to Lakshmana, when Rama says to Bharata, when he meets him that our friend, biggest friend is death. Because the moment we are born, death is always with us and can take any time. That is Sri Rama telling. So there's nothing to be afraid of death actually, and that's how he kind of cajoles. So in that scheme of things, when we look at who am I, right? What am I? This body. What is this body? Made up of atoms and molecules. It's a scientifically proven fact that every 7 years our entire body is changed. Everything dies in the body. Actually, we call that we are living, but internally, biologically, every moment I'm dying. But I don't get to see that or get to realize that, and I don't feel that I am that. That's why I don't have that. There is absolutely no ragam or dvesham attached to that, and that is because we don't know. But when we come to know, and then we have to lift ourselves up to the state of I'm not this body at all. That's what is the whole exercise that we are going through to get to the state. Yeah, sorry.
Good points. Many years ago, it reminds me of another thing I've seen on the internet. Those days, maybe 12 years ago, when internet was just coming up, you could see many things floating. So there's one PowerPoint thing I saw. So there's this lady who tells her husband about her neighbor. So she sees her neighbors washing done and lying there. Then she says that, I wonder why they don't clean their clothes so well. He says that. Keeps him out. So she feels important as well. Then one day suddenly she finds the clothes look very clean. And she keeps thinking, what has happened? So she realizes that the previous day she has cleaned the window panes. So the window panes are dirty. It looks good on the slides. So through that, when you see, she can only see the dirt. Once he cleaned it, everything is clean. So to Ashiji's point, when we see the world the way we see, the world is different to different people. That's why they say the world is unreal. And we see it through our eyes, which are governed by our gunas, the three gunas. So the more of sattva that we see, the better the world would be, the more of divinity we see. That's why this whole journey that we are talking is always about increasing the sattva component. And there was a story about Hanuman it's in Dasbodh, Sant Ramdas. It seems Hanuman said that the lilies in Lanka were red in color. And Sant Ramdas says, no, they were white in color. He says, how can it possible? They go to Sri Rama. Sri Rama says, the lilies are actually white. But because you had that anger in you, you look red to you. So the eyes say. So again, it only goes to show, if we want to see the world as a better place, it's in us. Thoughts are what makes us. So the more of sattva that we get inside us, the more of dilution of the other sattvanas, the better off the world will be. And that's how the divinity. So your point is very valid. We as a Kshatriya, that's what he sees.
So the message was not only to Arjuna, it was also to Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya.
Exactly.
Via Sanjaya. So there's a larger audience, and there's exactly what. Brilliant.
Actually, some of the commentators say that Sanjaya deliberately is telling Dhritarashtra, because after this he enters again, that they are all going to be killed. That's inevitable. So you can still stop the war if you want at this moment. Some of the commentators are saying this, but nothing has an impact on them, they just continue. So that's this verse. So let's take up the next one, which is a very powerful one, and which we will use a lot of time for discussing.
तस्मात्त्वमुत्तिष्ठ यशो लभस्व
तस्मात्त्वमुत्तिष्ठ यशो लभस्व
जित्वा शत्रून् भुङ्क्ष्व राज्यं समृद्धम्
जित्वा शत्रून् भुङ्क्ष्व राज्यं समृद्धम्
मयैवैते निहताः पूर्वमेव
मयैवैते निहताः पूर्वमेव
निमित्तमात्रं भव सव्यसाचिन्
निमित्तमात्रं भव सव्यसाचिन्
तस्मात् त्वमुत्तिष्ठ यशो लभस्व
तस्मात् त्वमुत्तिष्ठ यशो लभस्व
जित्वा शत्रून् भुङ्क्ष्व राज्यं समृद्धम्
जित्वा शत्रून् भुङ्क्ष्व राज्यं समृद्धम्
मयैवैते निहताः पूर्वमेव
मयैवैते निहताः पूर्वमेव
निमित्तमात्रं भव सव्यसाचिन्
निमित्तमात्रं भव सव्यसाचिन्
Go through the meanings. Yeah.
Therefore arise, win renown, destroying your enemies, enjoy the prosperous kingdom. For these warriors have already been slain by me. Be you but an instrument thereof, O thou master bowman, Arjuna.
We'll do the words first and then we can start our discussion. So, Tasma, therefore, Tvam Uttishta, get up. Labhasva Yashah, attain fame. Jitva Shatrun, conquering the enemies. Hungashva, enjoy. Samridham Rajyam, the prosperous kingdom. Eva, indeed. Ete Purvam Eva, they have been already Nihataha Maya, killed by me. Hava Nimitta Matram, be a mere instrument. Savya Sachin, for Arjuna. There is actually Savya Sachin is one who is ambidextrous. You can use both hands. That was his promise. So when the Lord says, be my instrument, what is he actually trying to convey here? My personal takeaway in this is this verse and the last verse. Of the whole chapter, these are the two verses which I think are significant. Yeah.
Just keep doing your duty to the best of your ability and witness
Sakshi Bhava.
Sakshi Bhava.
What else? Be my instrument. What is be my instrument?
There is an interesting story. It seems Radha was very jealous of the flute that Krishna carries. The reason is because he always used to keep the flute on his finger. He always used to be in its hands. And he also used to have his lips.
Yeah.
So Radha was very, very jealous of his flute. So she tells the flute, why? I mean, this is like this thing, I'm really jealous of you. So the flute says, what did I do? Nothing. What am I? Nothing. I just made holes the holes were made in me, and the wind is going through me, and then there is beautiful music, and everybody enjoys, and he enjoys. So I'm the instrument without the
Literally
ego.
the instrument.
Literally the instrument without the ego, with a lot of holes, and whatever he wants, he plays, and everybody enjoys, and I enjoy. So that's the bhava difference between Radha and the instrument. So that's.
How can he be the flute? So this is a topic that's worth considering. If you want to live as an instrument of the Lord, what would it look like? When we heard in Sita Pagna, Arjuna asking and Krishna described. What would it look like? So you said,
And then Loka Sangrama.
And Krishna is also reinforcing that, anyway, you're going to win. And the clarity is.
to go and enjoy.
Yeah.
But to do that, he's saying, why should you be scared? Why should you be anxious? Just be my instrument. I've already done the thing for you. He's showing him. So this is a powerful thing because we always quote this. Be an instrument, meet the market. So what is that emotion that comes through, and how do we live? If we have to live life according to what is described here, how do we live life?
Zero ego.
Zero ego. Makes no sense that I am doing.
Ishwarapana
Ishwarapana.
being a karma yogi.
Which is what he's saying, right? Ishwarapana prasadapana. We accept everything that comes, offer it and accept everything. He's the son of God. What else?
I think this is higher than that. Much higher. What he's speaking here is much higher. Or not that karma yoga level is much higher. Because elimination of ego, karma yoga, it is just happening little bit. Here he's completely, to take the example of bamboo, has no ego. So you have reached the probably 95% already is done. That is what I understood. Totally you are surrendering. There is nothing that is for you.
So total surrender.
Yes.
So surrender is important as we saw in chapter 2. What else? What else can we do to be karma yogi? Yes. Start off with surrender, Ishwarapana, prasadapana. And there is one more thing that I needed to So basically, how do we do actions that will not bind us? Because by being an instrument, you don't have the ego. So you're doing actions which won't bind you to the instrument. And if you recollect, our previous chapters talked about that, right? Chapter 4, how does the jnani behave? Can we go back?
So, just want to check one thing.
Yeah.
When you say instrument, here instrument is not doing the action. Here God is doing the action using the instrument.
So I'll come to that. So there is an interesting point about free will versus fate. So we need to discuss that. So that's a controversy that always comes up. Without that comes up, it's very logical. So if you look at chapter 4, how does the jnani act? Go to verse 19. Because here, if you recollect the famous verse 4.18, is action, inaction, inaction, inaction. And that after that follows, these are some of the ways we can act. So you take 4.19, whose undertakings are devoid of self-centered objectives. So no ego, no mamakara. Whose works have been burnt up by the fire of knowledge. So to Kavita's point, he's already read this because we're talking about jnani here. So the knowledge is there. So that's how the person performs. Then the next one, 20. Who wants to read 20? 420.
Without attachment to the fruits of action, ever satisfied and free from calculations, he is verily doing nothing, even to engage in actions.
Which means when we are acting, we don't have any attachment to the fruits of action. And we recollect 2.47, the famous karmanya state. So no attachment to the fruits of action. You just do, focus on the process and do your best. And don't worry about outcomes. Whatever comes, prasada will accept it and then work on whatever you can do to improve it.
So there are a couple of things again. One is Paramarthananda's donation that we call.
For
He
this
says,
particular one?
Yeah, for these, he says like this doesn't mean that you don't plan. Yeah, what you don't do is you don't worry. That's the difference. You have to plan, but you don't worry about whether it's going to be successful or not. If the plan fails, you make another plan and improve on that. No problems with that. But the results that's
True.
that's a thing
People
which-
think that this means you don't plan. It doesn't mean so. It means that you do everything that you can within your power and you also do it the best that you can, excellent, because you're offering it to God. Then you let go. Letting go is the most difficult part because you always keep thinking.
And the second thing which always strikes me when I read these things is what is called as the power of now. Be always in the moment. Yeah. When we are doing that, the mindfulness and putting that entire stuff at that point and just being there and also observing yourself whether you're there or not. Because the moment you start getting to the future, this understanding, trying to see whether this thing is successful or not, or trying to go to the past where, oh, I've always failed in this particular stuff and some bad things have happened, you get unhappy. But you're always in that moment and executing whatever needs to be done at that point of time, then you're actually absolutely free of that this thing. Probably that comes to the free will portion.
In our 3.30 is there, right? 3.30. Mai Sarva. What we say the fifth one? Second line special.
Vai sarvani dharmani samyasya adhyatmachetasah virasirnirmamo bhutva yudhyasvanikatajjvara. And no asaya mamakara. I mean that karma from the actions. Karma in the sense
No obsession.
binding the actions and mamakara. I am doing this.
Correct. So both are eliminated. So Swami Chinmayananda says one is the future, one is the past. Past is where we keep feeling guilty, so the mamakara comes in. Oh, it should not have happened to me. And then the future is the nirasha, the future. And then he says yuddhasva. So you go and fight, that means be in the present. Most important, vigata jvara. One that you said. Means without anxiety. So when you do your things, do it without anxiety. Just focus on the now. Be mindful of what you're doing. Forget about the rest. Then you will even be efficient. I mean, even Vyavaharika we know you do that. Your Six Sigma, we talk about what is the process, right? Instead of the outcome.
Yes.
Explain to let the people know. Share your wisdom on Six Sigma.
Six Sigma.
No, I always use that example.
The concept is basically, I mean, the analogy is of an aircraft and a runway. Yeah. So how do you? I mean, this is the simplest way of explaining probably Six Sigma. So you've seen aircrafts which land, right? And when it's landing, actually, it's got nothing. It's just and then it has to land on a particular strip. Now, how wide do you make that strip? How do you determine that? Whether it should be really wide, or it should be this small. What basis can you do that? So what these people do is they just take in, observations. Every time the flight lands, where does the tire, hit this thing? And once you have a certain sample, you can basically determine based on that how wide you want to keep the runway. So that's basically the Six Sigma concept itself. So whatever, like suppose I've taken this the front tire and it just has been rubbing on the runway, I can see the marks, right? So 6 times more, practically, they keep this thing wide so that even the worst can be taken care of. And there is something called as million defects and so on and so forth. But to understand this, you need the process. So the process of landing itself is taken. After there is something called design of experiments, which is much more advanced. So this is the process that one goes through, but it's a very systematic process, very involved, and it's very precise. And as much data that can be collected, they collect. Then they make a judgment.
So the point in that is that you see the result, and then you start jumping to conclusion. But in Six Sigma, you work backwards to see what are all the various causes, and you work on the process. You don't worry about the outcome. Because once you work on the process, the outcome is a given. It has to happen. If it doesn't happen, we have that famous cycle called plan, do, check, act. Right? So you plan, you go ahead and execute, you check very well, and then just go ahead and act. And if it is not within your thing, do it again. So plan, like you said, go ahead and execute based on the best you know. And the results are not to your expectation, or I would not say expectation. The results are something that you can change. Go ahead and change.
Yeah, like changing the runway direction itself, making the and so on, putting the slope right. There can be a lot of variables. The beauty of this thing is the process is that there's something called outliers or black swans. Meaning, if you basically take and entirely model the entire stuff, still something can go wrong. And these are called as outliers. Meaning, there has been a huge gusty wind and the plane has gone totally off the road. You simply accept that. And you actually don't focus much on the outliers. So you should know what outliers to focus on and what not. So that's basically the acceptance piece which comes probably.
You see, Six Sigma and Bhagavad Gita. Then, so ever satisfied free calculation is doing nothing to engage in actions. And again, 21. Free from desires.
Sorry.
421. We are trying to see how to live as an instrument of the Lord. These are the verses which tells you this is how a jnani lives. This is how he performs action. So he can also emulate this and then be true to the saying that he thou an instrument. Yeah?
One who is free from desires, whose mind is well controlled, led, and who is without any sense of ownership, incurs no sin from work, as his actions are merely physical.
So the Lord says in chapter 3, no one can remain without action. It's a myth. Vidyachara, if you think that you have to be without actions, the actions are inevitable, but how do you perform is what matters. So being an instrument is performing. So coming back to Ramji's question, one can read from here and say, okay, everything is already done by the Lord. I don't have a role. But yet our scriptures say, what is the biggest difference between us and animals? Is that we have free will. Animals go by instinct. And if you don't use the free will, that means you are not doing justice. Because it is rare to be born as a human being. We have already seen that. So the free will has been given to you so that you can aspire, and all our goal is Jivan Mukta. And the will is the one that helps you in that way. So on the one hand, we have everything is fate, on one hand, there is free will. So how do you reconcile it? This particular verse itself, the Lord says, I have finished everything for you. You be instruments. So does it mean that he is telling Arjuna?
I always have that doubt about the motivation factor. Anyway, we tend to think that so that to get that motivation and to work on it, that's the biggest challenge. Until now, I'm fighting it.
Actually, there are three contradictions or three contradictory statements comes in Gita. One, this one, Nimitta Matram Bhavasancha, which means you are just an instrument. I have already decided what should be the future outcome. You are just an instrument, okay? So I control everything. Then in the second, there is also another statement in Gita which says Atmanyeva Atmanatushka, and then there is always not Atmanyeva Atmanatushka, where he says basically
The self-effort.
self-effort.
6.5 and 6.6.
Where he says you are responsible for everything that you have to do. Nobody is. Then there is third statement which comes in Gita which says basically I give everything. I am the one who is giving everything. Okay, you do, I give. So the question is whether God is the controller or whether God gives what based on what we do, or whether it is our own effort which gets us things. So where is the third one, especially this last one is actually very, very confusing because he says that you are merely an instrument, which means I control everything. So whether how you act is also depends on how I control you. So in other words, it can be very fatalistic. So, and these three are contradictory. So whether it is now my effort or whether whatever I do, God just is a giver of whatever I do, or whether God is the one who controls everything.
Let me add one more to it. 9.27. 9.27, where he says that I don't do anything.
Yeah. He says I don't do anything also.
After the
So there is all sorts of confusion.
So he says I don't do anything. So it's up to your karmas, right? So how do you reconcile?
How do you reconcile?
28. After the Padma Patra. Not that 510. I'll check, come back. Pushpam Phalam 26. 26. Numbers I know, I'm a chartered accountant, so I have to remember numbers. Okay, so how do you reconcile all these things?
Can I give it a try? Sorry.
The instrument part is again a free will, I think. Whether we choose to accept that Ishvara Prasad Buddhi or whether we tend to be sorry and sorrowful by taking good actions. But instrument is also a choice, I think.
Whether you want to be an instrument
or you don't want to be an instrument.
So do we be fatalistic and say, why should I do
So
anything?
here, of course, if you really look at that sloka there, it says Nimitta Matram Bhavasana. You are just an instrument. So whenever he says, Krishna says, you do what you are supposed to do, you are an instrument, you will get what you want, I don't give anything. So everything is generic only. So that's why we have this contradiction.
The same Krishna.
Netam Kuru is basically in the 4th chapter where he says that you will have to do your duty. Do your duty. So whether you have to do your duty, whether you have to go by your likes and dislikes, whether you are just an instrument because God controls everything. Because God
says you be an instrument. He doesn't say you are an instrument.
I guess he's giving you a choice. So the free will comes in. But then if you are an instrument, do you have any independent scope of thinking, or you just do? It's already done.
Martha has also said that the reason why you have to exercise your free will and choice or actions, because as for Vedanta, you are continuously accumulating your karmas. So, while what is current prarabdha karma, you may really not have a choice because based on any past. The action which you
Future
think
is
now.
So Ramanji, in this question I'll ask you a counter question here. So yes, it says Nimitta Mata Gausanya Shastri. So which means Krishna has already decided what has to happen. So whether the whatever Arjuna does, is he going to get into the Papa Punya of Krishna or Papa Punya of Arjuna?
It cannot be harmful or Krishna, no, because
Because Krishna has already decided.
Because
That is my I'm just playing an advocate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is, I mean, there was a lot of these kind of similar questions which I had, but off late I'm getting slowly answered them. The first point is, I mean, you spoke about all this towards the end of Bhagavad Gita. What he says in the last, after the entire stuff is, now you decide. You know,
what you want to do.
what you want to do, you decide. I'm not, I mean, he said all this. So basically, what he said is that all the tattvam he has laid out very beautifully in different ways, and to all about the entire process, the system, this thing, the what do you call us, the purusha, the prakriti, and everything is explained. And now you take a decision. Now the question is, who is that? Who is going to take a decision? It is Arjuna, right? So it's up to Arjuna to decide what he wants. The entire lay of the land has been put in. And I remember this when we were in Satsang in Guruji's this thing. He asked the question, he answered himself. It was brilliant. He asked, is God there? Somebody asks him. So he says, yeah, God is there. So, okay, prove that, God is there by making tea to coffee. Somebody says like that, but doesn't make tea to coffee. God doesn't do. So he said, then God doesn't exist, right? Why is this thing there? The answer is, I have given you all the capabilities. If you don't want tea, you make coffee and have it. It is not like you test God whether God wants to make your coffee. So that's the whole point. What I've started realizing is, I've been also going through this Ramana Maharshi stuff and in line with Bhagavad Gita. It depends on my state, what I want. When I have that samatvam, and if I want to do a particular action, I decide I do, and I should basically be getting the consequence based on whatever the system gives me, and I should accept that. If I don't want to do, the tomorrow concept comes. You can be, where you are. There's a story for that also. Parashurama, for instance, he killed his mother. You know that, right? But after he cut off his mother's head and she was reincarnated and so on and so forth, Jamadagni, who was basically the father of Parashurama, said, okay, I have also, this thing. But Parashurama always used to feel, oh, I have done this Matru Hatya, and I have to do something to kind of, get out of this problem. That is there in his mind, that vibration. So what he does is he goes to his father and asks and all the sayings as to how can I, how can I kind of get out of this sin? The saying say, Chumar, this is no, cannot. I have to do something. Share, okay, this one, you do one full year, every day you have to say a different stotram, you have to offer a different flower to the Lord, you have to make a different prasadam every day of the year, 365 days, you do that. That is your parihara, prayashchitam. Parashurama does it. It was extremely difficult. By the time it was like 3 months or 4 months, he said, oh my God, this seems to be very difficult. Somehow he manages to do it. After the 365 days, and he finishes that, and he goes back to the same day, I've done this. Now what? So, the same thing. But your state of mind was not there for you to accept what I had said at that point of time. You had to go through this process of 365 to arrive at that particular state, and which is exactly what Ramana Maharshi says, right? You are not this body. Whenever even Krishna says you are not this body, but you always feel, but you are not in that state at all. Still, we are get to this. What Guruji says, man, Asim Sambhavana ka Swami hu, and I am everything. And the state, we have to go through this process. and these things of motivation and all these things will come because of our hidden vasanas. We have got unsatisfied desires, and if we have suppressed that, we have not overcome it, and those get back again to the more these things to this thing, and it comes out in different
Some
forms.
others.
So that's does it make sense or?
Swami Paramathananda has written a lot.
Not written a lot, but I mean, but these 4 points, again, I will just want to, maybe Bala Sir, you want to give some clarity to around these 4 points.
No, from what I have understood, Swami Paramathananda is very clear in this. He says, you follow what, when you say be an instrument, means you live harmically, you live in alignment with what the Lord's teachings are. Does not mean that everything is fatalistic. And he always uses that example of the doctor prescribing a medicine. Prescribing the medicine. The patient comes to the doctor, and the doctor diagnoses. So if the patient has something simple like an appendix or tonsils, it's a question of just removal. So the pariharam here is removing it and be done with it. So the prarabdha can be removed through the prayers or the practice actions in this case. The second case, he says, could be like somebody having say cholesterol or blood pressure or thyroid, which may need some degree of management. So you need to take medicines. You may not be able to eradicate it, so you've got to live with it. So the prayers that you do, the actions that you do will help you to somehow mitigate the consequences. The third case could be a very, say, advanced form of a critical illness like a cancer, where you can't do anything. So you only have to pray for the strength and the support. It will help you to face it. So what we are working on is always going to have some impact on our prarabdha. One, he says, is by doing good things, you get that punyam. That punyam will help you to move in the right direction, to counteract the prarabdha. Secondly, when you do this thing, you will be able to have a calmer sense of mental attitude, and you'll be able to perform the actions better, and more important, accept everything as a authority. So he says, both are equally important, but you live dharmically, follow the teachings, you put in all your efforts, do your best, but don't get attached to the outcome. That's what is reconciliation of these things. Anything else?
Yeah. So I mean, finally, that is the answer. The main reason is everybody has got a free will. Wherever there are choices, wherever there is a choice, you have a free will. So as Swami Dayananda says, right from the time you get up, you want to get up, the alarm rings. Whether you want to get up or not is your choice. So everywhere you have a free will. So that is why when Krishna says, Udraja your choice, you have the free will to do it. Now where does he say that, okay, I am actually giving you everything? So which means God is a giver. So that we'll have to reconcile as God as a karma phala data. So whatever we have did in the past, he makes sure that he is given in the future. So
the law will be
executed, and although it looks like as if I am giving you, I am not giving him, it doesn't mean that. It only means that you are being given what you have done as an action in previously, which is what has been given as result. So that is as a karma phala data. So God does not have any partiality or does not decide who should get what. Okay, he is not even a decider as to who should get what.
He just makes the law work.
And then so the question is, I pray for it, I get it. How do I get it? So the action that you have done, plus along with the actions of the past, will actually let you get to what you want. But God definitely, the forces of this nature are such that what you desire for strongly will happen. The sankalpa will make it happen. Even to the extent that even for your next birth, whatever be your strongest sankalpa in your current birth will decide your next birth also. So the sankalpa will make it happen. That's how the nature works. That's how this God has decided this this universe. Then now comes to this last one. Then if I here it seems seemingly confusing, where you have correctly pointed out that you be an instrument, he says. That is, you are not an instrument, you just be an instrument, which is where he says that anybody who aligns to dharma is God's instrument. Or rather, if you want to be God's instrument, align yourself to dharma. So that is the output of this one. So if you are aligned to dharma, you are God's instrument. You are, or if you want to, if you are following dharma, you are God's instrument. Or you want to be God's instrument, align yourself to dharma. So that's the takeaway from this one.
This is what basically. So, Swami Paramathananda, his talks, sometimes he publishes these things. So, one of the talks is on prayer. I think we spoke about it earlier. So, he says, based on all these things, we do pray, right? We still need to pray. So, how to pray? So, he says, "Oh Lord, let me be cheerfully and enthusiastically active." You cannot pray and say, "I don't want any responsibility." It's not possible. So he says that, let me enjoy whatever I do and let me contribute to the future. You cannot say, I only want this results. But you can say that I want to contribute to that, and that becomes my future. So let me not try to control the future. So in the prayers, typically, we ask for a particular specific outcome. You just don't ask for that. Ask what you can do to contribute, and then accept the outcome. Then he says, we always pray for others to change. So and so is not so, I want that person to change. Could be our children, could be anyone. So he says, let me influence others positively through my life and language. So I can be a role model, I can influence, but I cannot make them change. It's up to them. Even here, Lord says only, it's your choice, you want to be an instrument or not. Let me not try and change others. Then he says, let me have the wisdom to discover satisfaction and security within myself, whatever be the setup, it means whatever be the environment. Because we always ask for things that I want to be happy, I want this, I want that, I want this. So what he is saying, regardless of the environment around you, let me find that eternal source within myself to enjoy that. So this is his talk, way back 1998, I think, on how to pray. It should be there in the website. If I can find it, I will find it. I just wanted. There is one particular prayer, it's a Christian prayer, St. Francis, which I liked a lot, and which actually says, some of you may know it. I just want to read it out, because I personally feel that it says, the prayer starts like this: Lord, let me be an instrument of thy peace. But this prayer is 1600, St. Francis of Assisi. Let me be an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. So as an instrument, he is asking St. Francis, let me be your instrument to do all these things. Then he says, O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console. I don't want to be consoled. I am not asking you to be consoled. Let me be an instrument whereby I can console others. To be understood as to understand. So, to be understood as to understand. Right? So I understand others rather than I always feel that they should understand. To be loved as to love. So don't ask that I should be loved. Let me see what I can do to love others. Because he says, for it is in giving that we receive. The more we give, the more we will receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. In the last line he says, it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. So when I keep reading this, let me be an instrument. This is the prayer that always comes to my mind. Because in a way he is describing. So the question is, you want to be an instrument, perhaps these are some of the things you can do. And it's nothing to do with the Bible and things. They're all universal generic things. This is one of the things I thought. Any other thoughts on that? Because we have not moved away from the second verse. But I thought this is an important one because it's our choice, free will. But if we live a life as an instrument, so the opportunity is given to us every moment. So Guruji always says that. Guruji has a sankalpa. Since he wants to, since he already got, the sankalpa is there. Now question is, You have an opportunity. Do you want to avail of it or not? Up to you. If you don't want it, it's okay. Whatever will happen, will happen. So similarly, this is what the Lord is saying here, that I have already killed them. Whether you like it or not, they are already, the fate has been decided. Whether you want to be an instrument and they, earn the name and fame and glory because I killed, it's up to you. That's why it's not. So any more questions on what's being an instrument of the Lord? To me, as I said, this is the most powerful lesson in the past. Any thoughts on that? So does it answer free will versus free will? Some glimmer of light somewhere? Yeah?
There is a subtle difference in time.
So it will always be there, but it's good not to be fatalistic, rather to focus more on the free will. And then keep in mind that God will always make the law of karma work. So ultimately, if it comes to you, it's because you asked for it. So your future is decided by you. You know this Swami.
There is one saying, if you have a strong sankalpa, the universe will conspire it to make it happen.
Yep.
They say,
The
the universe will conspire to make it happen. If you have a strong sankalpa. They say.
So you need to make that commitment. They say throw your heart over the bar. So if you make a commitment and move, to your point, universe will conspire.
Yeah.
So the concept there is something called a benevolent universe. That means if you live in a world where you say everything is Eastwara Prasada, that means everything is happening as a Prasada. Which means everything is happening to help you in some form or the other. Which means the universe is benevolent. When I say universe, is everything that you see around you. But if you go by that, then anything that comes to your mind, anything that you encounter, you'll always say that it is happening for me, it is good for me. You'll always find something positive. It will spur you on to do something better. Whereas if you're paranoid, which is the converse of it, you'll always say something is out to hurt me because you're so paranoid.
That's why the horse actually, the horse story also, the old man will say, not just so what, he will say it's all for good only. It is all for good only. So whatever happens, he will say that it will be for
For the
good.
good.
So even if the horse runs away or his son gets injured, it's all
For the good.
The only thing is that with our limited vision of future, we are not able to see what is good, what is in store for us.
So what do we need in that? The ingredient that will make us realize.
We have to basically, as you rightly said,
Titiksha.
Before that, Shraddha. If you have the Shraddha,
you have to have the Shraddha that God is going to give you the correct thing or the right thing in the long run.
so how do you know what is the right thing?
What?
So how do you know what is dharmic?
I think it's in the
I
scriptures.
will not do what
Don'ts are already given.
I will not do what I don't want others to
Others
do to me.
Golden
Very
rule.
simple rule.
No, I feel always like the science experiments there is always given the circumstances. So I think even in the scriptures, initially they were given that don't do all these things will happen.
Hypothesis.
Yeah.
So Swami Paramatmananda says there are three components of every action. One is the knowledge, one is the desire, one is the kriya shakti. So the knowledge will then drive, I want this, because you have this knowledge now. If you didn't know about it, perhaps you will not even think about it. And the desire will drive the action. So if the knowledge is distorted, naturally the desire will be distorted, naturally the action will be distorted. So the root cause always goes back to the right knowledge. And the right knowledge comes from scriptures. And to understand the scripture, we need a guru. Because it's sometimes difficult, we need somebody to interpret it as for us and guide us. That's how this whole pattern works. We are doing Viveka Chudamani now. We have just started everything. Jaganji is away, so today I was doing it. So these things keep on, everything is all aligned. Everything just comes together. So
Sometimes ignorance is bliss. Sometimes, I mean, a person who is living in sub-Saharan Africa, who has not seen probably an Audi car or a BMW or a Benz, he wouldn't even desire to have one. Yeah.
Because he doesn't know it
because
exists.
he doesn't know it exists in the first place. So the knowledge, once it comes, then that is where the desire starts kicking in. So the idea is, that's why having the right knowledge or restricting your areas of knowledge is also a way to actually control your
But
desires.
in today's world, with media so prolific, difficult, right? So Bhutan, if you all know Bhutan, when they do that World Happiness Index, Bhutan always comes very high. And one of the reasons was they didn't allow TVs there. So TV is media. And then later on, the Prime Minister said, no, 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 I think we need to modernize. So there's a lot of opposition. They did try and start using. North Korea, if you take, that's the other extreme, when you have just told what you need to know, you're getting more. So right knowledge is what makes a difference. The Viveka that comes from the right knowledge. So whatever we are doing in all these scriptures, reading classes or satsang,
I read about the tribes in the Andaman and Nicobar. Nobody knows them, and many people are trying to go and approach them. Archaeologists or overseas, they are always short arrows. Nobody, they feel totally isolated. So they are not in touch with anything. They don't wear proper clothes. They're just tribes. And but when tsunami came there, they were forced to escape. They knew that exactly, and they rushed towards the mountains and they escaped. Nothing happened to them. All the others who knew a lot of things which they didn't knew, they died. So, what kind of knowledge is good for us that we have to decide? I mean, you can't just take all the knowledge which is available everywhere. What is my prakriti and what knowledge I should accept? That is what will help me. Otherwise, knowing a lot of things is not going to help.
the more you know, then you discover how little you know.
Yeah.
There is no end.
Yeah.
So right knowledge is. So we will close here, and then we will put it across to Raviji again. There are more questions. Any other questions? Any thoughts? Raviji, that answer clarify somewhat. We need to read more. Viveka Chudamani is only because
Krishna is neither doer nor enjoyer. Krishna? No, neither doer nor enjoyer.
He is neither a doer nor enjoyer.
But all these are interesting. A lot of room for thought. So manana is very important. So Shravana manana, and then it doesn't end there. You need to. Srinidhi always
You
says,
keep
right?
reflecting on what you learned with life situations
Yeah,
to be able
then
to
now
actually
answers.
to get some clarity.
Yeah.
To get some clarity. So every life situation you will have to reflect on that to get some.
So keeping a journal becomes important. So it helps you to reflect. So Srinidhi has this phrase. We have Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, right? So Srinidhi says, Suna, which is the Shravana part, then Mana. So the reflection, start thinking, Kiya, Tuhija. So unless you do it and try it out, you will not know. Otherwise, it just remains. You're saying something?
No, I'm telling you something, you just tell me whether my perception is like when he is showing this Visvarupa, when we say that God is the annihilator, actually I feel it is the Apara. I mean, it's the Apara Prakriti, the Para is not concerned with doer, it is all other things. So when God is actually showing the Vishwarupa, we don't attribute to the Brahman that he is the
Definitely, that is not the problem. When he is showing
so
his
there's
true
no
power,
confusion
when
whether
it is
God is giving, taking, nothing is related to Brahma. It is all Apara Prakriti, which is Maya, which is giving.
that is what he is showing. That is what
Yeah,
he is.
so
Everything
Is
is
this
going and
you
coming.
see Raviji's the chart
Even
of
the
Bhakti.
Maya is not doing it.
no, it is giving the right thing according to the Prakriti.
That is the Maya. Okay,
I
Maya.
mean, what's the execution of the karma?
The laws are the Maya.
execution of the laws.
The laws are the Maya.
Remember this tiny.
Yogamaya.
You have to go from the different grades of Bhakti itself. So you go from Ekarupa, which is your Ishta Devata, then you go to Anekarupa, which is where you see the Lord in the Rupa. Then finally you go to Arupa. But to reach that stage, these are the stepping stones. You cannot jump to that. It's difficult. And that's why this chart shows how to reach it through the Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Jnana Yoga.
This is yours, 5-step process.
Yeah, it's a famous power. Swami Paramatmananda keeps on repeating it all the time. In fact, even in this, what is it, stop, again he talks. Kali?
Purnamada Purnamada